The Confederation of Indigenous Nationalities of Ecuador ratified the continuity of the national strike while announcing mobilizations in all provinces of the country. Gunmen from a criminal gang have kidnapped 36 people after attacking several villages and 2 churches in northwest Nigeria. Authorities in Bangladesh struggled on Monday to deliver food and drinking water to hundreds of thousands of people evacuated from their homes in days of flooding that have submerged wide swaths of the country. From the headquarters of TeleSUR English in Havana, Cuba, this is From the South. I'm your anchor, Gladys Quesada, and these are the news. The Confederation of Indigenous Nationalities of Ecuador ratified the continuity of the national strike, while announcing mobilizations in all provinces of the country. The national strike in Ecuador continues for the 8th consecutive day, with almost all the sectors closed in the capital, all in spite of the fact that the government declared a state of exception in the provinces of Pichincha, Cotopaxi, and Imbabura, which this Monday President Guillermo Lasso extended to Chimborazo, Tungurahua, Pastaza, with the aim of neutralizing the national strike. The president of CONAIE, Leonidas Issa, reiterated that the strike will continue indefinitely until the 10 demands that have been presented to the national government are attended. And Fernando Zeron, Quito's main cultural center director, confirmed the decision issued by the prosecutor's office of raiding the House of Culture.
The last time the cultural center was taken over by the police, it was 42 years ago under the military junta. Now we're under a dictatorship. This center, who has been a house of freedom, a house of thought, a house of diversity, has fallen into the hands of terror. We cannot guarantee the safety of the people who are still at the cultural center. We are going to ask that they be evacuated. We must guarantee the safety above anything else.
Colombia's Historical Pact Coalition holds its first meeting to define the permissions to plan the actions that will allow Gustavo Petro to govern. Senator Roy Leonardo Barreras Montealegre expressed in the meeting that in order to achieve a good government, it was necessary to have a parliamentary majority, so that will be a matter to which they will focus on. He also urged all the political forces that want to work for the country to unite objectives in order to achieve the reforms and changes that Colombians have asked for. The president of Venezuela, Nicolás Maduro Moros, offered on Monday a balance of the results of this working tour of countries in Eurasia and Africa. During a meeting with the Council of Sectoral Vice Presidents of the country, the Venezuelan head of state highlighted the achievements and the issues developed during his recent international tour that began on June 7th in Turkey. In this sense, President Maduro assured that there is a worldwide perception of the achievements, advances, as well as the economic recovery of the people of Venezuela, despite the unilateral coercive measures imposed against the country from Washington. The Venezuelan president also stated that the Eurasian tour had among its objectives to bring the message and truth of the people of Venezuela.
We are returning from this necessary tour. Here I have the report of the tour. I was studying completely the report of the Eurasian tour. We were there in those regions with much love, carrying the message of our people, carrying the truth of Venezuela. We were there. They received us with honors, with affection, with sincerity, with deep feelings of solidarity. That is how we were received in the world.
In Brazil, José Mauro Coelho has announced his resignation as the president of Petrobras, the third company top executive to resign under the Jair Bolsonaro administration. Coelho's resignation comes under heavy pressure from the government and its allies just a month and a half after taking office. And it comes days after the company announced new hikes in gasoline and diesel prices that caused the state-owned company, the oil company shares, to fall by more than 9% on Friday. Coelho had already been fired from Brazilian President Jair Bolsonaro, but he was awaiting the shareholders' meeting to endorse his replacement. Coelho had been accused by the president of being the sole responsible for gasoline price hikes. Since Jair Bolsonaro took office, oil prices have gone up at 171%. Presidential candidate for the Workers' Party, Luis Inácio Lula da Silva, finishes a campaign tour this weekend. From Maceió, our correspondent Brian Muir with the details.
During a campaign rally in the northeastern city of Maceió, leaders of the Let's Get Together Brazil electoral coalition responded to recent threats made by far-right President Jair Bolsonaro and military leaders against this year's presidential elections.
Our government's hands are dirty with the blood of Dom Phillips and Bruno Pereira. What makes the commanders of our armed forces think they can meddle in our elections? It's not their role. Elections belong to the people, and the people are showing that they prefer to rebuild Brazil with Lula.
With recent polls showing Lula over 20 points ahead in this year's presidential race, observers from around the world have warned the United Nations that President Bolsonaro and the military will try to enact a coup. But it's not scaring Lula's supporters.
He's always trying to hold the coup.
Anything can happen. We always prepare for a coup, but we are sure that this is Lula's year.
Recent victories of the Latin American left have sparked hope and willingness to fight in most of the Brazilian working class, who are fed up with rising poverty and unemployment and rampant inflation caused by privatizations and senseless liberalization of fuel prices.
Bloomberg says he went to the United States to ask Biden for help. "Oh, Biden," he said, "can you help me beat Lula? The way we are now, he can get Biden, Trump, and anyone else he wants, and we will still break the chains of this country."
As thousands of Lula supporters sang the verse in the Brazilian national anthem which goes, "Beloved homeland, a child of yours never runs from a fight," they looked like they meant it. Brian Muir, TeleSUR, Maceió.
We'll take a short break now. Join us again after this. Welcome back to From the South. Gunmen from a criminal gang have kidnapped 36 people after attacking several villages and 2 churches in northwest Nigeria. Local security Commissioner Samuel Aruwan said gunmen have snatched 3,000 people on Sunday, the latest in a series of mass abductions to hit the region. Armed groups, known locally as bandits, are ravaging parts of northwest Nigeria with raids and kidnappings. This latest incident came 2 weeks after gunmen killed 40 people at a church in the usually safer southwest. In Sunday's attack, Aruwan said the gunmen had ransacked villages before storming the Mount Horara Baptist Church and St. Moses Catholic Church in Rubu in the Kajuru area of Kaduna State. The security commissioner said 3 people were also killed in the raid. The leaders of 7 nations comprising the East African community met on Monday in Nairobi, Kenya, to discuss the security situation in the Democratic Republic of the Congo. The 3rd East African Community Heads of State meeting comes as heavy fighting revives decades-old animosities between Kinshasa and Kigali, with the Democratic Republic of the Congo blaming neighboring Rwanda for the recent insurgence of the M23 rebel group. Rwanda has repeatedly denied backing rebels, while both countries have accused each other of carrying out cross-border shelling. Kenya's presidency said in an official statement that people in the Eastern Democratic Republic of the Congo have long suffered and continue to pay an inordinately heavy price in loss of lives, property, and elusive peace. The Economic Community of West African States deploys a stabilization force to Guinea-Bissau after the country was thrown into turmoil when its president escaped a coup attempt. The Guinea-Bissau Stabilization Support Mission comprises some 600 troops from Nigeria, Senegal, Ivory Coast, and Ghana. ECOWAS Commissioner for Political Affairs, Peace and Security General Francis Ben Hanzin said the mission will last 1 year and is renewable. Guinea-Bissau President Umaro Sissoco Embalo escaped a coup attempt on February 1st that left 11 people dead. Guinea-Bissau, a small nation of around 2 million people bordering Senegal and Guinea, is prone to coups, experiencing 4 of them since independence from Portugal in 1974. The last one was in 2012. On Monday, the first China Horn of Africa Peace Conference kicks off in Addis Ababa, the capital of Ethiopia, which aims to tackle peace and stability in the African region.
This initiative is owned, led, managed and driven by the countries of the Horn, and China will only play a supportive role, as and when requested.
What we learned from the lessons of history is that the Horn of Africa must not become the backyard of any country. Rather, the people of this region should be the masters of their own country's destiny.
In Tunisia, the opposition to the government of President Kais Saied continued to mobilize in protest against a possible constitutional referendum. The demonstration was organized by the Salvation Front and went through the center of the capital, watched by a strong police presence. The protesters, who called the new referendum as fraudulent, expressed their demand that President Saied should leave office and listen to the people who are living in an unstable economic situation and poor living conditions. These demonstrations occur after the Tunisian president fired 57 judges on June 1st for alleged corruption and announced his intentions to make changes in the constitution. United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres calls for refugee asylum rights to be guaranteed. In his message for World Refugee Day, the Secretary General called for reflection on the courage and resilience of those fleeing war, violence and persecution, recalling that the conflict in Ukraine is causing the largest and fastest displacement in Europe since World War II, while the movements of other fleeing wars in different places continue. He stressed the total number of forcibly displaced people worldwide is 100 million. This date began to be celebrated in 2001 on the occasion of the 50th anniversary of the 1951 Convention relating to the status of refugees. Guterres emphasized that everyone has the right to seek protection, no matter who they are, where they come from, or when they had to flee.
Poco después de amanecer, Bashir Bilal se sienta rodeado de niños para cantar versos coránicos.
Brussels Airport, the largest in Belgium, cancels all flights due to a strike. The measure was the result of a strike by security guards who demand better salaries in a context of high inflation. The airport administration reported that a total of 232 flights were cancelled, affecting some 30,000 passengers. Arriving commercial flights are also affected, with only 1 out of every 4 flights operated. All cargo traffic was maintained. On the occasion of the World Refugee Day, Syria demands support for its efforts to ensure a dignified and voluntary return of the Syrian refugees who were forced to flee their country because of the war, a case that Damascus denounces is being politicized by the host countries themselves. Our correspondent there, Hicham Wanos, brings us the details.
The International Conference on the Return of Syrian Refugees, held in Damascus in 2020, and the subsequent 4 joint meetings of Syrian-Russian ministerial committees are part of the work being carried out by Syria with the support of Russia to put an end to the suffering of Syrian refugees and displaced. A work that the Syrian and Russian authorities denounce, in addition to the inaction of the United Nations, clashes with the refusal of Washington and its European allies, who are blocking the return of the refugees to use their suffering as a pressure card in the service of their political agenda against the Arab country.
The world community and international organizations, led by the United Nations, must press for Western countries to lift all sanctions, allow the return of refugees, and support the facilities offered by the Syrian state to ensure a dignified return of its citizens, as well as to stop policing the case of the displaced, and to support the reconstruction process of the country.
The obstacles imposed by the host countries have not prevented the Syrian government from encouraging its citizens, who according to the UN figures amounted to 6.5 million, to return to their homeland. The National Reconciliation Program, the 20 presidential decrees of general amnesty, the reopening of several border crossings, and the rehabilitation process in the destroyed areas have facilitated the return home of more than 1 million refugees abroad and nearly 5 million of the 7 million internally displaced persons. Damascus affirms that the work does not cease in order to recover the country's human potential.
A large number of refugees return to the country, as most of them wish to return despite all the obstacles imposed by the host countries, since the government offers them all the facilities available to them, and we hope that this return and all the work to achieve it will be successful with the support of allies and other friendly countries.
On World Refugee Day 2022, the United Nations stresses that everyone has the right to seek protection, no matter who they are, where they come from, or when they had to flee. The principle that although Syria applies to almost 500,000 Arab refugees, in particular the Palestinians, that it hosts in its land under the same conditions as the Syrians, it regrets that it does not apply to its citizens who suffer mistreatment and exploitation in the host countries.
TeleSUR, Damascus, Syria.
And we have more news coming up after a final short break, so stay with us. Welcome back to From the South. Authorities in Bangladesh struggled Monday to deliver food and drinking water to hundreds of thousands of people evacuated from their homes in days of flooding that have submerged wide swaths of the country. The floods triggered by the monsoon rains have killed more than a dozen people, marooned millions and flooded millions of houses. In Sylhet, in northeastern Bangladesh, along with the Surma River, villages waded through streets flooded up to their knees. Local TV said millions remained without electricity. And Amur Baram, Junior Minister for Disaster and Relief, said up to 100,000 people have been evacuated in the worst hit districts, including Sylhet. The National Flood Forecasting and Warning Center said on Sunday that flooding in the northeastern districts of Sunamganj and Sylhet could worsen, adding that the situation could also deteriorate in other northern districts. In the U.S., firefighters continue to battle a forest fire that has consumed about 30,000 hectares in southern New Jersey, but authorities said no injuries or property damage has been reported. The fire broke out in remote sections in the Wharton State Forest and was discovered early Sunday afternoon, according to the New Jersey Forest Fire Service. The fire initially was small in size, but fueled by dry and freezing conditions, it began spreading quickly Sunday night and was 45% contained, but late Monday 45% by the morning local time. The cause of the fire is not yet known. The blaze, which was producing dense smoke, was spanning areas of Washington, Shamon, Hamilton, and Mullica Township. Spain, France, and other Western European nations sweltered over the weekend under a blistering June heat wave, with some wildfires still blazing even as the weather began to ease. Emergency services battled several wildfires on Sunday in northern Spain. The most alarming blaze in the northwestern Sierra de Culebra mountain range was destroyed more than 25,000 hectares. Residents of some 20 villages have evacuated from their homes, were allowed to return home on Sunday morning. There have also been fires in Germany, where temperatures reached 38 Celsius in the eastern regions of Brandenburg. Thuringia and Saxony, with the eastern city of Cottbus, setting a new German record for June of 38.7 Celsius degrees. The soaring temperatures were in line with scientists' predictions that such phenomena will now strike earlier in the year as a result of global warming. So we have come to the end of this news brief, but you can find this and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. And also, if you feel so inclined, please join us on social media for all the latest news. We are on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Telegram. For TeleSUR English, I'm your anchor, Gladys Quesada. Thank you for watching.